This is called going forward without advancing, pushing back without using weapons. There's no greater misfortune than underestimating your enemy. Underestimating your enemy means thinking that he is evil. Thus, you destroy your three treasures and become an enemy yourself. When two great forces oppose each other, the victory will go to the one that knows how to yield. 70. My teachings are easy to understand and easy to put into practice. Yet your intellect will never grasp them, and if you try to practice them, you'll fail. My teachings are older than the world. How can you grasp their meaning? If you want to know me, look inside your heart. 71. Not knowing is true knowledge. Presuming to know is a disease. First realize that you are sick. Then you can move toward health. The master is her own physician. She has healed herself of all knowing. Thus, she is truly whole. 72. When they lose their sense of awe, people turn to religion. When they no longer trust themselves, they begin to depend upon authority. Therefore, the master steps back so that people won't be confused. He teaches without a teaching, so that people will have nothing to learn. 73. The Tao is always at ease. It overcomes without competing, answers without speaking a word, arrives without being summoned, accomplishes without a plan. Its net covers the whole universe, and though its meshes are wide, it doesn't let a thing slip through. 74. If you realize that all things change, there is nothing you will try to hold on to. If you aren't afraid of dying, there is nothing you can't achieve. Trying to control the future is like trying to take the master carpenter's place. When you handle the master carpenter's tools, chances are that you'll cut your hand. 75. When taxes are too high, people go hungry. When the government is too intrusive, people lose their spirit. Act for the people's benefit. Trust them. Leave them alone. 76. Men are born soft and supple. Dead, they are stiff and hard. Plants are born tender and pliant. Dead, they are brittle and dry. Thus, whoever is stiff and inflexible is a disciple of death. Whoever is soft and yielding is a disciple of life. The hard and stiff will be broken. The soft and supple will prevail. 77. As it acts in the world, the Tao is like the bending of a bow. The top is bent downward. The bottom is bent up. It adjusts excess and deficiency so that there is perfect balance. It takes from what is too much and gives to what isn't enough. Those who try to control, who use force to protect their power, go against the direction of the Tao. They take from those who don't have enough and give to those who have far too much. The master can keep giving because there is no end to her wealth. She acts without expectation, succeeds without taking credit, and doesn't think that she is better than anyone else. 78. Nothing in the world is as soft and yielding as water. Yet for dissolving the hard and inflexible, nothing can surpass it. The soft overcomes the hard. The gentle overcomes the rigid. Everyone knows this is true, but few can put it into practice. Therefore, the master remains serene in the midst of sorrow. Evil cannot enter his heart, because he has given up helping. He is people's greatest help. True words seem paradoxical. 79. Failure is an opportunity. If you blame someone else, there is no end to the blame. Therefore, the master fulfills her own obligations and corrects her own mistakes. She does what she needs to do and demands nothing of others. 80. If a country is governed wisely, its inhabitants will be content. They enjoy the labor of their hands and don't waste time inventing labor-saving machines. Since they dearly love their homes, they aren't interested in travel. There may be a few wagons and boats, but these don't go anywhere. There may be an arsenal of weapons, but nobody ever uses them. People enjoy their food, take pleasure in being with their families, spend weekends working in their gardens, delight in the doings of the neighborhood. And even though the next country is so close that people can hear its roosters crowing and its dogs barking, they are content to die of old age without ever having gone to see it. 81. True words aren't eloquent. Eloquent words aren't true. Wise men don't need to prove their point. Men who need to prove their point aren't wise. The master has no possessions. The more he does for others, the happier he is. The more he gives to others, the wealthier he is. The Tao nourishes by not forcing, by not dominating. The master leads. Tao Te Ching can be translated as the book of the imminence of the way, or the book of the way and of how it manifests itself in the world, or simply the book of the way. Since it is already well known by its Chinese title, I have let that stand. About Lao Tzu, its author, there's practically nothing to be said. He may have been an older contemporary. Thus, it is like the Tao. Indwelling, live.
That are pro-Israel not reporting all pro-Israel shit, and obviously the people who are anti-Israel not reporting all anti-Israel shit. So wouldn't this spread of misinformation work both ways?
Absolutely not, and I'm gonna tell you why.
Oh,
the only reason that a person lies is to do what? Gain advantage on somebody else, because that person's dumb enough to fall for the oath.
All right, so stop now. Stop. We're going point by point. Stop. So is the history of Israel as a nation not built upon a lie? Simple yes or no?
No.
Any other brother that wants to open up to the women and they can give their feedback and shit, but I'm just trying to make sure all the brothers get to speak.
Alright, give it to the hyenas, man.
Right.
I'm playing.
Did you hear what she said? He's gonna keep coming off mute.
Why didn't we see the same behavior?
When you say the same behavior, are you only talking about like just like gun violence?
That's one example. We did not see black people killing each other at the levels we do now, and they were poor back then.
Let me ask you this: did we have as many guns in the streets?
Yes. Oh hell, fuck yeah, we did.
No, we didn't.
No, yes, Rob, don't do this. Don't do this. Back in the day, kids used to, you could easily, there was no background checks. There were fully automatic weapons. You could literally order a gun from a Sears catalog and it would show up on your doorstep in 2 weeks with no background checks, no age restrictions, no.
close to the ground. In thinking, keep to the simple. In conflict, be fair and generous. In governing, don't try to control. In work, do what you enjoy. In family life, be completely present. When you are content to be simply yourself and don't compare or compete, everybody will respect you. 9. Fill your bowl to the brim, and it will spill. Keep sharpening your knife, and it will blunt. Chase after money and security, and your heart will never unclench. Care about people's approval, and you will be their prisoner. Do your work, then step back. The only path to serenity. 10. Can you coax your mind from its wandering and keep to the original oneness? Can you let your body become supple as a newborn child's? Can you cleanse your inner vision until you see nothing but the light? Can you love people and lead them without imposing your will? Can you deal with the most vital matters by letting events take their course? Can you step back from your own mind and thus understand all things? Giving birth and nourishing, having without possessing, acting with no expectations, leading and not trying to control. This is the supreme virtue. 11. We join spokes together in a wheel, but it is the center hole that makes the wagon move. We shape clay into a pot, but it is the emptiness inside that holds whatever we want. We hammer wood for a house, but it is the inner space that makes it livable. We work with being, but non-being is what we use. 12. Colors blind the eye. Sounds deafen the ear. Flavors numb the taste. Thoughts weaken the mind. Desires wither the heart. The master observes the world, but trusts his inner vision. He allows things to come and go. His heart is open as the sky. 13. Success is as dangerous as failure. Hope is as hollow as fear. What does it mean that success is as dangerous as failure? Whether you go up the ladder or down it, your position is shaky. When you stand with your 2 feet on the ground, You will always keep your balance. What does it mean that hope is as hollow as fear? Hope and fear are both phantoms that arise from thinking of the self. When we don't see the self as self, what do we have to fear? See the world as yourself. Have faith in the way things are. Love the world as yourself. Then you can care for all things. 14. Look, and it can't be seen. Listen, and it can't be heard. Reach, and it can't be grasped. Above, it isn't bright. Below, it isn't dark. Seamless, unnameable, it returns to the realm of nothing. Form that includes all forms. Image without an image. Subtle, beyond all conception. Approach it, and there is no beginning. Follow it, and there is no end. You can't know it, but you can be it. At ease in your own life. Just realize where you come from. This is the essence of wisdom. 15. The ancient masters were profound and subtle. Their wisdom was unfathomable. There is no way to describe it. All we can describe is their appearance. They were careful as someone crossing an iced-over stream, alert as a warrior in enemy territory, courteous as a guest, fluid as melting ice, shapeable as a block of wood, receptive as a valley, clear as a glass of water. Do you have the patience to wait till your mud settles and the water is clear? Can you remain unmoving till the right action arises by itself? The master doesn't seek fulfillment. Not seeking, not expecting. She is present and can welcome all things. 16. Empty your mind of all thoughts. Let your heart be at peace. Watch the turmoil of beings, but contemplate their return. Each separate being in the universe returns to the common source. Returning to the source is serenity. If you don't realize the source, you stumble in confusion and sorrow. When you realize where you come from, you naturally become tolerant, disinterested, amused, kind-hearted as a grandmother, dignified as a king, immersed in the wonder of the Tao. You can deal with whatever life brings you. And when death comes, you are ready. 17. When the master governs, the people are hardly aware that he exists. Next best is a leader who is loved. Next, one who is feared. The worst is one who is despised. If you don't trust the people, you make them untrustworthy. The master doesn't talk, he acts. When his work is done, the people say, amazing, we did it, all by ourselves. 18. When the great Tao is forgotten, goodness and piety appear. When the body's intelligence declines, cleverness and knowledge step forth. When there is no peace in the family, filial piety begins. When the country falls into chaos, patriotism is born. 19. Throw away holiness and wisdom, and people will be 100 times happier. Throw away morality and justice, and people will do the right thing. Throw away industry and profit, and there won't be any thieves. If these three aren't enough, just stay at the center of the circle and let all things take their course. 20. Stop thinking and end your problems. What difference between yes and no? What difference between success and failure? Must you value what others value, avoid what others avoid? How ridiculous. Other people are excited, as though they were at a parade. I alone don't care. I alone am expressionless, like an infant before it can smile. Other people have what they need. I alone possess nothing. I alone drift about like someone without a home. I am like an idiot. My mind is so empty. Other people are bright. I alone am dark. Other people are sharp. I alone am dull. Other people have a purpose. I alone don't know. I drift like a wave on the ocean. I blow as aimless as the wind. I am different from ordinary people. I drink from the great mother's breasts. 21. The master keeps her mind always at one with the Tao. That is what gives her her radiance. The Tao is ungraspable. How can her mind be at one with it? Because she doesn't cling to ideas. The Tao is dark and unfathomable. How can it make her radiant? Because she lets it. Since before time and space were, the Tao is. It is beyond is and is not. How do I know this is true? I look inside myself and see. "22. If you want to become whole, let yourself be partial. If you want to become straight, let yourself be crooked. If you want to become full, let yourself be empty. If you want to be reborn, let yourself die. If you want to be given everything, give everything up." The Master, by residing in the Tao, sets an example for all beings. Because he doesn't display himself, people can see his light. Because he has nothing to prove, people can trust his words. Because he doesn't know who he is, people recognize themselves in him. Because he has no goal in mind, everything he does succeeds. When the ancient masters said, "If you want to be given everything, give everything up," they weren't using empty phrases. Only in being lived by the Tao can you be truly yourself. 23. Express yourself completely, then keep quiet. Be like the forces of nature. When it blows, there is only wind. When it rains, there is only rain. When the clouds pass, the sun shines through. If you open yourself to the Tao, you are at one with the Tao, and you can embody it completely. If you open yourself to insight, you are at one with insight, and you can use it completely. If you open yourself to loss, you are at one with loss, and you can accept it completely. Open yourself to the Tao, then trust your natural responses, and everything will fall into place. 24. He who stands on tiptoe doesn't stand firm. He who rushes ahead doesn't go far. He who tries to shine dims his own light. He who defines himself can't know who he really is. He who has power over others can't empower himself. He who clings to his work will create nothing that endures. If you want to accord with the Tao, just do your job, then let go. 25. There was something formless and perfect before the universe was born. It is serene, empty, solitary, unchanging, infinite, eternally present. It is the mother of the universe.
So, and again, I peeped the vibe. That's the joint off the first time. Bro, since I heard you start talking, I peeped it. Like, everyone say, yeah, you got it, gang.
Get a life, you fucking losers! Delete the app and get out of the room quick, save your life! Chillism is a mind virus. Nathan and Tali are sick! Do something with your lives! Delete the app! Delete the room! Get away from chillism forever! It's retarded! Low IQ, stupid people!
Man is great. These are the four great powers.
Save yourselves!
Man follows the earth. Earth follows the universe. The universe follows the Tao. The Tao follows only itself. The heaven is the light. Is the source of all movement. Thus the master travels all day without leaving home. However splendid the views, she stays serenely in herself. Why should the lord of the country flit about like a fool? If you let yourself be blown to and fro, you lose touch with your root. If you let restlessness move you, you lose touch with who you are. "27. A good traveler has no fixed plans and is not intent upon arriving. A good artist lets his intuition lead him wherever it wants. A good scientist has freed himself of concepts and keeps his mind open to what is. Thus the master is available to all people and doesn't reject anyone. He is ready to use all situations and doesn't waste anything. This is called embodying the light. What is a good man but a bad man's teacher? What is a bad man but a good man's job? If you don't understand this, you will get lost, however intelligent you are. It is the great secret. 28. Know the male, yet keep to the female. Receive the world in your arms.
Sayings of Confucius. Thieves that break into houses by night. Your goody-goody people are the thieves of virtue. The master said, "Would that I could do without speaking." Zhu Kung said, "If our master never spoke, how could we, his disciples, transmit his doctrines?" The master replied, "Does God speak? The 4 seasons hold on their course, and all things continue to live and grow. Yet, tell me, does God speak?" Girls and servants are the most difficult people to handle. If you treat them familiarly, they become disrespectful. If you keep them at a distance, they resent it. Individual virtue. The master said, "Is he not a princely man? He who is never vexed that others know him not?" True virtue rarely goes with artful speech and insinuating looks. At home, a young man should show the qualities of a son. Abroad, those of a younger brother. He should be circumspect but truthful. He should have charity in his heart for all men, but associate only with the virtuous. After thus regulating his conduct, his surplus energy should be devoted to literary culture. In the matter of food and lodging, the nobler type of man does not seek mere repletion and comfort. He is earnest in his affairs and cautious in his speech, and frequents virtuous company for his own improvement. He may be called one truly bent on the study of virtue. Mengistu asked for a definition of filial piety. The master said, "It consists in there being no falling off." Fanchi was driving the master's carriage some time after, when the latter told him, saying, "Mengistu asked me about filial piety, and I answered that it consisted in there being no falling off." Fanchi said, "What did you mean?" The master replied, "That parents should be served in the proper spirit while living, buried with the proper rite after death, and worshipped thereafter with the proper sacrifices." Meng Wupo asked for a definition of filial piety. The master said, "There is filial piety when parents are spared all anxiety about their children, except when they happen to fall sick." Tzu Yu put a question on the subject of filial piety. The master said, "The filial piety of today reduces itself to the mere question of maintenance. Yet this is something in which even our dogs and horses have a share. Without the feeling of reverence, what is there to distinguish the 2 cases?" Zhu Xia also asked about filial piety. The master said, "It can hardly be gauged from mere outward acts. When there is work to be done, to relieve one's elders of the toil, or when there is wine and food, to cause them to partake thereof, is this to be reckoned filial piety?" Zhu Kung inquired about the higher type of man. The master replied, "The higher type of man is one who acts before he speaks, and professes only what he practices." The master said, "The higher type of man is Catholic in his sympathy and free from party bias. The lower type of man is biased and unsympathetic. A man without charity in his heart. What has he to do with ceremonies? A man without charity in his heart. What has he to do with music?" Lin Fang inquired, as to the prime essential in ceremonial observances. The master said, "Ah, that is a great question indeed. In all rites, simplicity is better than extravagance. In mourning for the dead, heartfelt sorrow is better than punctiliousness." The master said, "The true gentleman is never contentious. If a spirit of rivalry is anywhere unavoidable, it is at a shooting match. Yet even here he courteously salutes his opponents before taking up his position, and again when, having lost, he retires to drink the forfeit cup. So that even when competing, he remains a true gentleman. It is the spirit of charity which makes a locality good to dwell in. He who selects a neighborhood without regard to this quality cannot be considered wise. Only he who has the spirit of goodness within him is really able either to love or to hate. The princely man never for a single instant quits the path of virtue. In times of storm and stress, he remains in it as fast as ever. The nobler sort of man in his progress through the world has neither narrow predilections nor obstinate antipathies. What he follows is the line of duty. The nobler sort of man is proficient in the knowledge of his duty. The inferior man is proficient only in money-making. In serving his father and mother, a son may use gentle remonstrance. If he sees that they pay no heed, he should not desist, but merely increase in deference. If his pains are thrown away, he must show no resentment. While one's parents are alive, one should not travel to a distance. If one must travel, it should be in a fixed direction. The age of one's parents should always be kept in mind. on the one hand, as a subject for rejoicing, on the other, as a cause for alarm. The wise man will be slow to speak, but quick to act. Su Chang asked, saying, "The Prime Minister Tzu Wen held office 3 times, but showed no joy. He lost it 3 times, but testified no concern. When he ceased to be Prime Minister, he was careful to explain the political situation to his successor. What is your opinion of him?" The master said, "He was loyal and conscientious. Had he not the highest degree of moral virtue? That I do not know. How can one judge of his moral virtue?" Su Chang continued, "When Sui Tzu slew the Prince of Qi, Chen Wen-tzu, though the possessor of 10 teams of war horses, forsook his wealth and turned his back on the country. Having come to another state, he said, 'Here they are as bad as our own Minister Sui Tzu,' and departed. And he repeated this proceeding each time that he came to a new state. What is your opinion of him?" The master said, "He was pure and incorruptible. Had he not the highest degree of virtue? I cannot say. How is one to judge?" The master said, "When the solid outweighs the ornamental, we have boorishness. When the ornamental outweighs the solid, we have superficial smartness. Only from a proper blending of the two will the higher type of man emerge. All men are born good. He who loses his goodness and yet lives is lucky to escape. Better than one who knows what is right is one who is fond of what is right, and better than one who is fond of what is right is one who delights in what is right." Fanchi asked in what wisdom consisted. The master said, "Make righteousness in human affairs your aim. Treat all supernatural beings with respect, but keep aloof from them. Then you may be called wise." Asked about moral virtue, he replied, "The virtuous man thinks of the difficult thing first, and makes material advantage only a secondary consideration. This may be said to constitute moral virtue." The master said, "The man of knowledge finds pleasure in the sea. The man of virtue finds pleasure in the mountains. For the man of knowledge is restless, and the man of virtue is calm. The man of knowledge is happy, and the man of virtue is long-lived. The higher type of man, having gathered wide objective knowledge from the branches of polite learning, will regulate the whole by the inner rule of conduct, and will thus avoid overstepping the limit. That virtue is perfect, which adheres to a constant mean. It has long been rare amongst men." Su Kung asked, "What would you say of the man who conferred benefits far and wide on the people, and was able to be the salvation of all? Would you pronounce him a man of moral virtue?" "Of moral virtue," said the master. "Nay, rather of divine virtue." Even Yao and Shun were still striving to attain this height. The man of moral virtue, wishing to stand firm himself, will lend firmness unto others. Wishing himself to be illuminated, he will illuminate others. To be able to do to others as we would be done by, this is the true domain of moral virtue. It has not been my lot to see a divine man. Could I see a princely man, that would satisfy me. It has not been my lot to see a thoroughly virtuous man. Could I see a man possessing honesty of soul, that would satisfy me? Is it possible there should be honesty of soul in one who pretends to have what he has not, who when empty, pretends to be overflowing, who when in want, pretends to be in affluence? The higher type of man is calm and serene. The inferior man is constantly agitated and worried. With sincerity and truth, unite a desire for self-culture. Lay down your life, rather than quit the path of virtue. Enter not the state which is tottering to its fall. Abide not in the state where
Can you identify which app is a trap?
I need your email, please.
Address, please.
Credit card, address, and name of your first pet. Please.
You may not be able to tell which app is a trap. The Google Play can download apps, not traps.
For the record, when was the last time you saw Cal Bradford alive?
I walked the president to his room at 2204.
Did you kill him?
Same here. It's a part of you happy that Cal is dead.
Sedition is rampant. When law obtains in the empire, let yourself be seen. When lawlessness reigns, retire into obscurity. In a state governed on right principles, poverty and low station are things to be ashamed of. In an ill-governed state, riches and rank are things to be ashamed of. The man of wisdom does not vacillate. The man of natural goodness does not fret. The man of valor does not fear. Yen Yuan inquired as to the meaning of true goodness. The master said, the subdual of self and reversion to the natural laws governing conduct, this is true goodness. If a man can, for the space of one day, subdue his selfishness and revert to natural laws, the whole world will call him good. True goodness springs from a man's own heart. How can it depend on other men? Yen Yuan said. Kindly tell me the practical rule to be deduced from this. The master replied, do not use your eyes, your ears, your power of speech, or your faculty of movement without obeying the inner law of self-control. Yen Yuan said, though I am not quick in thought or act, I will make it my business to carry out this precept. Chung Kung inquired as to the meaning of true goodness. The master said, when out of doors, behave as though you were entertaining a distinguished guest. In ruling the people, behave as though you were officiating at a solemn sacrifice. What you would not wish done to yourself, do not unto others. Then in public, as in private life, you will excite no ill will. Chung Kung said, though I am not quick in thought or act, I will make it my business to carry out this precept. Suma Yu inquired as to the meaning of true goodness. The master said, the truly good man is slow of speech. Slowness of speech. Is this what goodness consists in? The master said, does not the difficulty of deciding what it is right to do necessarily imply slowness to speak? Suma Yu asked for a definition of the princely man. The master said, the princely man is one who knows neither grief nor fear. Absence of grief and fear. Is this the mark of a princely man? The master said, if on searching his heart he finds no guilt, why should he grieve? Of what should he be afraid? Zhu Chang asked, how to attain exalted virtue? The master said, make conscientiousness and truth your guiding principles, and thus pass on to the cultivation of duty to your neighbor. This is exalted virtue. The master said, the nobler sort of man emphasizes the good qualities in others and does not accentuate the bad. The inferior sort does the reverse. Zhu Chang asked, what must a man do in order to be considered distinguished? The master said, what do you mean by the term distinguished? Zhu Chang replied, I mean one whose fame fills both his own private circle and the state at large. The master said, that is notoriety, not distinction. The man of true distinction is simple, honest, and a lover of justice and duty. He weighs men's words and observes the expression of their faces. He is anxious to put himself below others. Such a one is truly distinguished in his private and his public life. As to the man who is merely much talked about, he puts on an appearance of charity and benevolence, but his actions belie it. He is self-satisfied and has no misgivings. Neither in private nor in public life does he achieve more than notoriety. Su Kung asked a question about friendship. The master said, be conscientious in speaking to your friend, but tactful in your efforts to guide him aright. If these fail, stop. Do not court a personal rebuff. The Duke of Shay addressed Confucius, saying, we have an upright man in our country. His father stole a sheep, and the son bore witness against him. In our country, Confucius replied, uprightness is something different from this. A father hides the guilt of his son, and a son hides the guilt of his father. It is in such conduct that true uprightness is to be found. Fan Chi asked a question about moral virtue. The master said, in private life, show self-respect. In the management of affairs, be attentive and thorough. In your dealings with others, be honest and conscientious. Never abandon these principles, even among savages. The master said, the nobler sort of man is accommodating but not obsequious. The inferior sort is obsequious but not accommodating. The nobler sort of man is easy to serve yet difficult to please. Who seeks to please him in wrongful ways will not succeed. In exacting service from others, he takes account of aptitudes and limitations. The baser sort of man is difficult to serve yet easy to please. Who seeks to please him in any wrongful way will assuredly succeed. and he requires absolute perfection in those from whom he exacts service. The nobler sort of man is dignified, but not proud. The inferior man is proud, but not dignified. Xin said, to refrain from self-glorification, to subdue feelings of resentment, to control selfish desire, may this be held to constitute perfect virtue. The master said, these things may certainly be considered hard to achieve, but I am not so sure that they constitute perfect virtue. The master said, a man of inward virtue will have virtuous words on his lips, but a man of virtuous words is not always a virtuous man. The man of perfect goodness is sure to possess courage, but the courageous man is not necessarily good. Can true love be anything but exacting? How can our sense of duty allow us to abstain from admonition? The nobler sort of man tends upwards, the baser sort tends downwards. The princely type of man is modest in his speech, but liberal in his performance. The princely man has three great virtues, which I cannot claim for myself. He is truly benevolent and is free from care. He is truly wise and is free from delusions. He is truly brave and is free from fear. Nay, replied Tsukung, these virtues are our master's own. The master said, is not he a sage who neither anticipates deceit nor suspects bad faith in others, yet is prompt to detect them when they appear? Someone asked, how do you regard the principle of returning good for evil? The master said, what then is to be the return for good? Rather should you return justice for injustice and good for good. Zulu asked about the conduct of the princely man. The master said, he cultivates himself so as to gain in self-respect. Does he rest content with that? He cultivates himself, was the reply, so as to give happiness to others. And is he content with that? He cultivates himself so as to confer peace and prosperity on the whole people. By self-cultivation to confer peace and prosperity on the whole people. Was not this the object which Yao and Shun still labored to attain? Tsukung asked for advice on the practice of moral virtue. The master replied, if an artisan wants to do his work well, he must begin by sharpening his tools. Even so, among the great men of your country, you should serve the wise and good, and make friends of men who have this moral virtue. The master said, the higher type of man makes a sense of duty, the groundwork of his character, blends with it in action a sense of harmonious proportion, manifests it in a spirit of unselfishness, and perfects it by the addition of sincerity and truth. Then indeed is he a noble character. The higher type of man seeks all that he wants in himself. The inferior man seeks all that he wants from others. The higher type of man is firm, but not quarrelsome, sociable, but not clannish. The wise man does not esteem a person more highly because of what he says, neither does he undervalue what is said because of the person who says it. Tsukung asked, saying, is there any one maxim which ought to be acted upon throughout one's whole life? The master replied, surely the maxim of charity is such. Do not unto others what you would not they should do unto you. The nobler sort of man pays special attention to 9 points. He is anxious to see clearly, to hear distinctly, to be kindly in his looks, respectful in his demeanor, conscientious in his speech, earnest in his affairs. When in doubt, he is careful to inquire. When in anger, he thinks of the consequences. When offered an opportunity for gain, he thinks only of his duty. Sun Chang asked Confucius a question about moral virtue. Confucius replied, moral virtue simply consists in being able, anywhere and everywhere, to exercise 5 particular qualities. Asked what these were, he said, self-respect, magnanimity, sincerity, earnestness, and benevolence. Show self-respect, and others will respect you. Be magnanimous, and you will win all hearts. Be sincere, and men will trust you. Be earnest, and you will achieve great things. Be benevolent, and you will be fit to impose your will on others. Zulu asked, does not the princely man value courage? The master said, he puts righteousness first. The man of high station who has courage without righteousness is a menace to the state. The common man who has courage without righteousness is nothing more than a brigand. Tsukung asked, Has the nobler sort of man any hatreds? The master replied, he has. He hates those who publish the faults of others. He hates men of low condition, who vilify those above them. He hates those whose courage is unaccompanied by self-restraint. He hates those who are audacious, but narrow-minded. And you, Tzu, he added, have you also your hatreds? I hate, replied the disciple, those who think that wisdom consists in prying and meddling, courage in showing no compliance, and honesty in denouncing other men.
Ritz Fresh Stacks are for snacking go-getters. Where you go, they go too. So go get them. Ritz Fresh Stacks. Ritz that you can take with you. Grab my game changer for visibly improved skin in 14 days. Olay Hyaluronic Body Wash.
Personalia. In his moments of leisure, the master's manner was uniformly cheerful and smiling. If the master happened to be dining beside one who was in mourning for his parents, he never ate a full meal. He never sang on any day in the course of which he had been bewailing a death. The master would never talk about prodigies, feats of strength, crime, or supernatural beings. The master made 4 things the subject of his teaching: a knowledge of literature and the arts, conduct, conscientiousness, and truthfulness. The master fished with a line, but not with a net. When he went out with bow and arrow, he only shot at birds on the wing. If the master happened to be with singers, and they sang a piece well, he would get them to repeat it, when he would also join in the song himself. The master was affable, yet grave, stern, but not fierce, attentive in his behavior, and yet calm. The master seldom spoke of money-making, of the laws of providence, or of moral virtue. There were 4 words of which the master barred the use. He would have no shalls, no musts, no certainlys, no eyes. Whenever the master saw a person in mourning, or in official robes, or one who was blind, he would at once rise from his seat, even though the other were his junior, or if he passed them in the street, he would quicken his step. Once, when the master was lying seriously ill, Zulu got the disciples to act the part of ministers of state. In an interval of his sickness, Confucius said, "What a long time Yu has been keeping up this imposture, in pretending to have ministers attendant on me when I have none. Whom am I deceiving? Am I deceiving God? But apart from that, is it not better that I should breathe my last in the arms of my disciples than that I should die in the midst of officials? And after all, though I may not be accorded the honor of a public funeral, I am not dying out on the high road." The master wished to settle among the 9 eastern tribes. Someone said, "How can you? They are savages." The master replied, "If a higher type of man dwelt in their midst, how could their savage condition last?" Confucius in his native village was simple and unassuming. He gave the impression of being no great speaker. In the ancestral temple and at court, he spoke fluently, but with a certain reserve. At court, he spoke to the ministers of lower rank with frankness and affability. To those of higher rank he spoke quietly, but with decision. In the presence of his sovereign, he seemed full of awe, but at the same time, grave and collected. When employed by the prince in the reception of distinguished visitors, his expression would change, and his legs seemed to bend under him. Standing in the presence of the visitors, he saluted them with clasped hands, turning about from right to left, and keeping the skirt of his robe properly adjusted, back and front. He then hastened forward with arms extended, like the wings of a bird. When a visitor departed, he would report in that sense to the prince, saying, "The visitor is not looking back." When he entered the gate of the palace, he seemed to bend his body as though the gate were not large enough to let him pass. He did not stand in the middle of the doorway, nor in passing through did he set foot on the threshold. When he passed the prince's throne, his expression seemed to change. His legs seemed to bend under him, and words seemed to fail him. Holding up his robe with both hands, he ascended the dais, his body slightly bent, and holding his breath as though he dared not breathe. When he came out from his audience and had descended the first step, his countenance lost its anxious expression, and he looked serene and happy. When he reached the bottom of the steps, he hastened away with his arms outstretched like wings. But when he got back to his place, he still seemed full of awe. He carried the prince's regalia with body slightly bent, as though he could hardly support its weight. He raised it to the height of his head, and lowered it again to the height of his chest. His countenance indicated nervousness, and he dragged his feet as though something held them to the ground. In offering presents as an ambassador, his appearance was sedate. At a private audience, he wore a pleased look. He would not eat meat that was clumsily cut, or served without its proper sauce. Although there might be an abundance of meat, he never let it exceed in quantity the vegetable food. In wine alone, he laid down for himself no particular limit, but he never reached the stage of intoxication. He took ginger at every meal. He did not eat much. When eating, he did not converse. When in bed, he did not speak. Even though he had nothing but coarse rice and vegetable soup, he would always reverently offer some to the ancestral spirits. He would not sit on a mat that was placed awry. On one occasion, Chi Kang-su having sent him some medicine, he bowed as he received it, saying, "Not being familiar with this drug, I would not venture to try it." His stables having been burnt down, the master on his return from the court said, "Has anyone been hurt?" He did not ask about the horses. If the prince sent him a present of cooked meat, he would sit down to taste it on a properly placed mat. If the prince sent him a present of raw meat, he would have it cooked and offer it in sacrifice. If the prince sent him a live animal, he would keep it alive. When the prince summoned him to his presence, he would go on foot without waiting for his carriage. If any of his friends died who was without a home or relations, he would say, "I will see to the funeral." In bed, he did not lie like a corpse. In his home life, his manner was not too formal. At the sight of a person in mourning, though it might be an intimate acquaintance, he would always look grave. On meeting an official in uniform or a blind man, however ragged, he would always show him some mark of respect. When a rich banquet was set before him, he would show his appreciation in his looks, and rise to return thanks. He would change countenance at a thunderclap or a sudden squall of wind. When in his carriage, he would not look behind him, talk rapidly, or point with his finger. Duke Ling of Wei asked Confucius about the disposition of troops in warfare. Confucius answered, "I know something about the arts of peace, but I have never studied the art of war." And on the morrow he departed. But when he came to the state of Chen, he was cut off from supplies, and his followers were so enfeebled that they could hardly stand. Tzu Lu indignantly sought the master's presence, saying, "Is it for the princely man to feel the pinch of privation?" The master replied, "Assuredly privation may come his way, but it is only the baser type of man who under it grows demoralized and reckless." Mian, a blind musician, having called on Confucius, the master said to him when he came to a flight of steps, "Here are the steps," and when he came to the mat which was spread for him, "Here is your mat." When all the visitors were seated, the master told him who they were, saying, "So-and-so is sitting here, so-and-so is sitting there." After Mian had gone, Su Chang asked, saying, "Is it the proper thing to speak thus to a musician?" The master replied, "Assuredly it is right to give this help to a blind man." The people of Qi sent a band of singing girls as a present to the Duke of Lu, and Qi Huangsu accepted the gift. For 3 days after that, no court was held, and Confucius departed.
2 trees are regrown for every tree used. Charmin.
The history of winning started here.
Naturally, we called our stuff Gatorade.
Confucius's estimate of others. The master said, "I may talk all day to Hui without his putting in a word of criticism or dissent, just as though he were deficient in understanding. But after he has left me, I find, on examining his private conduct, that he knows for all that how to exemplify my teaching. No, Hui is not deficient in understanding." Tzu Kung asked, saying, "What, so is your opinion of me?" "I would liken you to," replied the master, "to a vessel limited in its function." "What sort of vessel?" asked Tzu Kung. "A richly ornamented sacrificial vessel," was the reply. Someone remarked that Jung had goodness of heart, but no cleverness of speech. The master said, "Of what use is cleverness of speech? Those who are always ready to assail others with their tongue are sure to make themselves disliked. As to Jung's goodness of heart, I have no certain knowledge. But how would he benefit by having cleverness of speech? The master said, my teaching makes no headway. How and if I were to board a raft and float away over the sea? My friend Yu would come with me, I feel sure. Zulu, hearing this, was glad. The master continued, Yu surpasses me in his love of daring, but he lacks discretion and judgment. Meng Wupo asked whether Zulu had true moral virtue. The master replied, I do not know. Asked a second time, the master said, you might be trusted to organize the military levies of a large and powerful state, but whether he is possessed of true virtue, I cannot say. And what is your opinion with regard to Chao? The master said, Chao might be entrusted with the government of a district, numbering 1,000 households or 100 war chariots, but whether he has true virtue, I cannot say. And Chi, what of him? The master said, Chi might be employed to stand in his official dress at a royal levee and converse with the visitors and guests. Whether he has true virtue, I cannot say. The master addressing Zukung said, which of the two is the better man, you or Hui? Zukung replied, how can I venture to compare myself with Hui? Hui hears one point and promptly masters the whole. I hear one point and am only able to feel my way to a second. The master agreed. No, you are not equal to Hui. Neither of us two is equal to Hui. Tsai Yu used to sleep during the day. The master said, rotten wood cannot be carved. Rules made of dirt and mud cannot be plastered. What is the good of reprimanding you? At first, he continued, my way of dealing with others was to listen to their words and to take their actions upon trust. Now, my way is to listen to what they say and then to watch what they do. This change in me is owing to you. The master said, I have never yet met a really strong character. Someone suggested Shen Cheng. The master said, Cheng is a slave to his passions. How can he possess strength of character? Zukung said, I am anxious to avoid doing to others that which I would not have them do to me. The master said, Tzu, you have not got as far as that. The master said of Tzu Chan that he had 4 of the qualities of the princely man. In his personal demeanor, he was grave. In serving those above him, he was attentive. In his care for the people, he was kind. In his ordering of the people, he was just. The master said, Yen Ping knows the art of associating with his friends. However old the acquaintance may be, he always treats them with the same respect. Ling Mutsu's behavior was wise, so long as his country was well governed. When revolution came, his behavior was stupid. His wisdom may be equaled by others, but his stupidity is beyond all limitation. Huan and Shu Qi never remembered their victories, and therefore their enemies were few. Who will say that Wei Shen Kao was an upright man? When asked by somebody for some vinegar, he went and begged it of a neighbor, and gave this to the man who had asked him. For the space of 3 months together, Hui would not deviate in spirit from the path of perfect virtue. My other disciples may attain this height once in a day or in a month, but that is all. Po Niu lying sick unto death, the master went to visit him. He clasped his hand through the window and said, he is dying. Such is fate. Alas, that such a man should have such an illness. That such a man should have such an illness. The master said, Hui was indeed a philosopher. Other men living as he did in a miserable alley, with a single dish of food and a single bowl of drink, could not have endured the distress. But Hui was invariably cheerful. He was a philosopher indeed. Jian Qiu said, it is not that I have no joy in my master's teaching. It is my strength that fails me. The master replied, those whose strength fails them fall fainting by the way. What you do is to set up bounds which you will not attempt to pass. The master said, Meng Chi Fan is no braggart. Once after a defeat, when he was bringing up the rear, he whipped his horse as he was about to enter the city gate and cried, it is not courage that makes me last. It is my horse that won't gallop fast enough. The master addressing Yen Yuan said, it is only you and I who would be content to accept public employment when it was offered to us, and to retire into obscurity when we were dismissed. Zulu then said, if you, sir, had the conduct of 3 legions, whom would you associate with yourself in the command? I would not, replied the master. Choose a man who would attack a tiger unarmed, cross a river without a boat, or sacrifice his life without a moment's regret. Rather should it be one who would not embark on an enterprise without anxiety, and who was accustomed to lay his plans well before putting them into execution. The master said, Taipo may be said to have reached the summit of virtue. Having resolutely renounced the imperial throne, he put it out of the people's power to glorify his act of renunciation. In the Emperor Yu, I find no loophole for censure. His own food and drink were plain, but his offerings to the ancestral spirits showed extreme piety. His own garments were poor, but his robes and cap of state were extremely fine. His own dwelling was humble, but he spent all his strength on the construction of public canals and watercourses. I find no loophole for censure in Yu. After the word had gone forth, Hui was never backward in his deeds. The master, speaking of Yen Yuan, said, Ah, what a loss! I used to see him ever progressing and never coming to a standstill. The master said, Yu, I fancy, is a man who would stand up, dressed in shabby garments quilted with hemp, among people attired in furs of fox and badger, and not be ashamed. Hating none, and courting none, how can he be other than good? As Zulu kept constantly humming over this line, the master said, This rule of conduct is not enough by itself to constitute goodness. The master said, None of those who accompanied me on the journey to the states of Chain and Sai come to learn from me now. Distinguished for their virtuous conduct were Yen Yuan, Min Tzu Chien, Jan Ponyu, and Chen Kung. For their skill in speaking, Tsai Wo and Su Kung. For their administrative powers, Jian Yu and Qilu. For their literary attainments, Su Yu and Su Xia. He does not help me. He takes such delight in everything I say. What noble piety is that of Min Tzu Chien? Other men speak of him in exactly the same terms as his own parents and his own brethren. When Yen Yuan died, the master wept with passionate grief, so that those who were with him said, Master, your sorrow is too passionate. Is it too passionate? He replied. Whose death should be a cause for violent grief, if not this man's? On one occasion, they were standing in attendance on the master Min Tzu, looking gentle and mild, Tzu Lu looking upright and soldierly, Jian Yu and Su Kung looking frank and affable. The master was pleased. A man like you, he remarked, will not come by a natural death. The master said, Why is Yu playing his martial music at my door? The disciples began to lose their respect for Tzu Lu, whereupon the master said, Yu has ascended the steps of the temple, though he has not yet reached the inner sanctuary. Tzu Kung asked which was the man of greater worth, Shi or Shang. The master replied, Shi exceeds, and Shang falls short. Then Shi is the better of the two. The master said, To exceed is as bad as to fall short. The head of the Qi clan was already richer than Cho Kung, yet Chiu kept levying taxes for him and adding to his wealth. He is no disciple of mine, said the master. My children, you may beat the drum and attack him. The master said, Hui reaches the verge of perfection, yet he is often in great want. Tzu does not resign himself to the will of heaven, yet his worldly goods continue to increase. His judgments, however, frequently hit the mark. Tzu Lu asked if he should at once put the precepts which he heard into practice. The master said, There are your father and elder brothers to consult first. Why should you be so impatient to act on what you hear? Jian Yu asked the same question, and the master said, Yes, act at once according to the instruction that is given to you. Kung Hashi Hua then said, When you asked if he should put the precepts which he heard into practice, you replied, sir, that he had his father and elder brothers to consult first. When Chiu asked the same question, you said, Act at once according to the instruction that is given to you. Now I am puzzled, and beg for an explanation. The master replied, Chiu is apt to hang back, therefore I press him on. Yu has eagerness enough for two, therefore I hold him back. Chi Tzujan asked if Chung Yu and Jian Chiu could be termed great ministers. The master said, I thought you had something extraordinary to ask about, and now it turns out to be a question about Yu and Chiu. What men call a great minister is one who serves his prince according to the principles of truth and virtue, and when that is impossible, resigns. Yu and Chiu, however, can only be termed ordinary officials. which is as much as to say that they will always obediently follow their master's will? The master replied, they would not follow him so far as to commit parricide or regicide. The master said, Yu is the man to settle a long litigation in a few words. Tsukung was fond of weighing other men's merits and defects. The master said, surely Tsu must be a very great sage. Personally, I have no time for this.
Can you tell which app is a trap? Google Play Cam. Download apps, not traps.
Let's make these delicious melty chocolate and marshmallow bites with my favorite Ritz crackers. I love the fresh stacks because not only do they taste super fresh, they're also portioned to minimize waste. Just spread some marshmallow fluff, add a little chocolate, pop them in the air fryer, and in just minutes you have this warm, ooey gooey, crunchy bite that will be a hit at any gathering with your friends. These are the most delicious treats, easy to make and so yummy.
Government and public affairs. The master said, in ruling a country of 1,000 chariots, there should be scrupulous attention to business, honesty, economy, charity, and employment of the people at the proper season. A virtuous ruler is like the pole star, which keeps its place, while all the other stars do homage to it. People despotically governed and kept in order by punishments may avoid infraction of the law, but they will lose their moral sense. People virtuously governed and kept in order by the inner law of self-control will retain their moral sense, and moreover become good. Duke Ai asked, saying, what must I do that my people may be contented? Confucius replied, promote the upright and dismiss all evildoers, and the people will be contented. Promote the evildoers and dismiss the upright, and the people will be discontented. Shi Kang Tzu asked, by what means he might cause his people to be respectful and loyal, and encourage them in the path of virtue. The master replied, conduct yourself towards them with dignity, and you will earn their respect. Be a good son and a kind prince, and you will find them loyal. Promote the deserving, and instruct those who fall short, and they will be encouraged to follow the path of virtue. Someone, addressing Confucius, said, why, sir, do you take no part in the government? The master replied, what does the book of history say about filial piety? Do your duty as a son and as a brother, and these qualities will make themselves felt in the government. This, then, really amounts to taking part in the government. Holding office need not be considered essential. The people can be made to follow a certain path, but they cannot be made to know the reason why. Tsukung asked for a definition of good government. The master replied, it consists in providing enough food to eat, in keeping enough soldiers to guard the state, and in winning the confidence of the people. And if one of these three things had to be sacrificed, which should go first? The master replied, sacrifice the soldiers. And if of the two remaining things one had to be sacrificed, which should it be? The master said, let it be the food. From the beginning, men have always had to die. But without the confidence of the people, no government can stand at all. Qing, Duke of the Qi state, questioned Confucius on the art of government. Confucius replied, let the sovereign do his duty as a sovereign, the subject his duty as a subject, the father his duty as a father, and the son his duty as a son. A good answer, said the Duke. For unless sovereign and subject, father and son do their respective duties, however much grain there may be in the land, I could obtain none to eat. Tzu Chang put a question about the art of governing. The master said, devote yourself patiently to the theory, and conscientiously to the practice of government. Shi Kang Tzu asked Confucius for advice on the subject of government. Confucius replied, to govern is to keep straight. If you, sir, lead the people straight, which of your subjects will venture to fall out of line? Shi Kang Tzu, being vexed by robbers, asked Confucius for his advice. Confucius replied, saying, if you, sir, can check your own cupidity, there will be no stealing, even though rewards should be offered for theft. Shi Kang Tzu questioned Confucius on a point of government, saying, ought not I to cut off the lawless in order to establish law and order? What do you think? Confucius replied, sir, What need is there of the death penalty in your system of government? If you showed a sincere desire to be good, your people would likewise be good. The virtue of the prince is like unto wind, that of the people like unto grass. For it is the nature of grass to bend when the wind blows upon it. Zulu asked for a hint on the art of governing. The master replied, "Take the lead and set the example of diligent toil." Asked for a further hint, he said, "Be patient and untiring." Chungkung, being prime minister to the head of the Chi clan, asked for advice on governing. The master said, "Make a point of employing your subordinates, overlook trifling mistakes, raise to office worthy and able men." "But," said Chungkung, "how am I to discover these worthy men and single them out for promotion?" "Promote those that you know," was the reply. "As for those that you do not know, will not their claims be brought before you by others?" Zulu said, "The Prince of Wei is waiting, sir, for you to take up the reins of government. Pray, what is the first reform you would introduce?" The master replied, "I would begin by defining terms and making them exact." "Oh, indeed," exclaimed Zulu. "But how can you possibly put tiling straight by such a circuitous route?" The master said, "How unmannerly you are, you! In matters which he does not understand, the wise man will always reserve his judgment. If terms are not correctly defined, words will not harmonize with things. If words do not harmonize with things, public business will remain undone. If public business remains undone, order and harmony will not flourish. If order and harmony do not flourish, law and justice will not attain their ends. If law and justice do not attain their ends, the people will be unable to move hand or foot. The wise man therefore frames his definitions to regulate his speech, and his speech to regulate his actions. He is never reckless in his choice of words." Fan Chi asked to be taught the art of husbandry. The master said, "Any farmer can teach you that better than I can." He then asked to be taught gardening. The master said, "Any gardener will teach you that better than I can." Fan Chi having gone out, the master said, "What a small-minded man is Fan Shu. If the ruler is addicted to modesty and self-control, his people will not permit themselves to be irreverent. If the ruler loves justice and duty, his people will not venture to be unruly.